Hello everyone and welcome to my long-awaited Q&A video. So before we get into the actual Q&A itself, I just want to again quickly say sorry for just how long it's taken for me to get around to doing this. I think we originally got to 350 subscribers back in August or September, I believe it was. So yeah, it's been a few months since then, so really sorry about that. It's just been really busy with other videos such as the Series 13 reviews and everything, and just general life stuff, basically. But here we are at long last, is my Q&A video. And just again quickly, I just want to say thank you all to all of my subscribers for helping me to get to this milestone of 350 subscribers, even if I'm saying this obviously a few months late now. I still want to say thank you. It honestly really means a lot to me, and I hope you all enjoy this Q&A. So without further ado, let's get on with it. So we're going to start off with the first two questions, of course. So questions 1 and 2. Smiler asks, who's your favourite Doctor and why? And if you could pick a classic Who monster/villain to bring back, which one and why? So as for the first question, who's your favourite Doctor and why? My favourite Doctor, if it isn't already obvious by the t-shirt here, is David Tennant, the 10th Doctor. Because, well, I have such fond nostalgic memories from my childhood of watching that era when it first came out, and I mean, I do also have memories of Chris Ferguson's time and then Matt Smith's first series, and and stuff like that. And I also got into the classic series quite early on, so I have memories of watching all of that as well. But I have particular fondness for David Tennant's era, especially series 3 and 4, because well, that era was essentially kind of a fundamental part of why I got into Doctor Who in the first place. So it's very hard for me not to have some kind of nostalgic memories of that particular time, 2007, 2008, because of that. So that is part of the reason why the 10th Doctor is my favourite. And then also it's just because I know, like, some people say, oh, he's very full of himself, and some of the stuff that happened during his era was very cheesy, and they complain about the romantic stuff and him like kissing pretty much almost like every single woman that he met, pretty much. I do agree with that. I do think that is like very valid points. Yeah, like the romance stuff, yeah, or the kissing was very strange. And then, yeah, I'm not a massive fan, to be honest, of the Doctor having romantic relationships with their companions anyway. But I especially didn't like the Ten and Rose stuff, because I just felt like that it just wasn't my cup of tea personally anyway. But I like the 10th Doctor for having his faults, at least, because it goes to show that he is not infallible. He's not indestructible, as it were, in a way. He's, if something upsets him or gets to him, it really upsets or gets to him. You know what I mean? He's a very emotional Doctor, and he's a very, I want to say, almost like sensitive Doctor in a way, I suppose. And I think that's really interesting way of exploring the Doctor as a character, of making them very, like I say, sensitive and emotional. And yeah, I kind of like that, because it shows that he will sometimes do the wrong thing, like the whole Time Lord Victoria stuff. Like that is part of his sort of massive overreaction to, and thinking that since the Time Lords are now supposedly all gone, even though they're not, obviously, Since he believes anyway that he is the last of the Time Lords, he thinks that he has the authority to then decide when he should interfere with laws of time, when he should break them, when he shouldn't, sort of thing. And it is a definite arrogance, yes, but you know, he's not perfect, and that's what I like about him ultimately. As for if you could pick a classic Who monster / villain to bring back, which one and why? Well, to be honest, there is quite a lot that I would love to bring back. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love it when Doctor Who brings back the usual suspects, as it were, like the Daleks and Cybermen and the Master and everything. But I think that, you know, as good as it is to have those come back, don't get me wrong, I think that sometimes it would be nice if the show was to kind of have a bit of a break from that and kind of bring some perhaps lesser known monsters or villains or whatever back. So sort of like what they've been doing with the Ice Warriors, Zygons and Sontarans in recent years and stuff like that. Stuff like that, as I say, just bring some more of them back, I think would be really nice, just to kind of freshen, make things feel a bit fresh again, and just to mix things up a bit. So there's an awful lot that I would like to pick, but I think the one I'll probably go with would have to be the Sea Devils, because I think that ultimately, you know, they've only appeared in 2 TV stories anyway throughout the whole of the show's history, and I feel like there's so much more that could be done with them, and their cousins, the Silurians as well, but especially the Sea Devils. The Sea Devils, you know, really not been given that much of a chance to really develop as a monster, and I would really like to see them brought back, definitely. And I really hope that the rumours of them potentially coming back, and I think it's in next year's Easter special, I really hope that's the case. I really hope they come back during that. So yeah, I'd have to pick the Sea Devils. Another pick I could go for would be the Yeti as well, because again, I feel like they haven't been utilised much. They've only had, again, 2 proper TV stories. So yeah, but I'll stick with the Sea Devils. Yeah. Question 3. Patchwork Fellow asks, if Chris Chibnall's 10/Martha story is called 42 and the meaning of life is also 42, does that mean that Chris Chibnall's 10 Martha story is the meaning of life? I hadn't thought of that, actually. But yeah, I suppose it does. Yeah. Yeah, I as a fan also of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, like, I completely respect that reference there, so top marks there for that. And yeah, very valid point. So thank you, Smiler and Patchwork Fellow, for your questions. So question 4, Jaybird asks, how long have you been a Doctor Who fan for? So I've been a Doctor Who fan for about 16, nearly 17 years now, ever since 2005 when they brought Doctor Who back with Chris Eccleston, and I think, you know, I'm pretty sure I said this earlier, but by about the time of 2007, 2008, I'd really gotten into the show and started to learn more about its history, and went back to watch the originals or classic series. And yeah, so Doctor Who quickly became, I think, like, just, I don't want to say just another one of my interests, but, you know, sort of that, like, an interest to them becoming sort of like the interest, as it were, or my favourite interest at least. So yeah, I've been a fan ever since 2005, and I'm still a fan now. So question 5, All of Who asks, which historical periods, events, or figures would you like to see Doctor Who explore? So, well, That is a difficult one, I must admit, because to be honest, I love when Doctor Who does history in general. I love the historical episodes, whether they be pure historicals or pseudo historicals. I just love them, and I really love it when when a Doctor goes back in time and meets historical figures or gets involved in historical events or whatever. I just love that because yeah, because especially since history itself. I know I'm going to sound like a massive nerd here, so sorry about that. But history itself is another one of my interests because of having watched, historical episodes of Doctor Who, like the ones that had Chris Folkestone, David Tennant, and Matt Smith in. But as for like which historical periods, events, or figures I'd like to see it explore, well, just any. Yeah, it's difficult for me to say. It could be some really well-known ones, like I don't know, American presidents, maybe Abraham Lincoln or George Washington or Thomas Jefferson or something like that. Or maybe you could have British monarchs, like trying to think of one that hasn't been in Doctor Who. Don't think you've had William the Conqueror. I don't think, not in the TV show anyway. I don't think William the Conqueror's been in that. You could also have I don't know, there's just all sorts you could have really when it comes to British monarchs. Or so you could have, like I say, really well-known historical people, or you could have some less-known historical people. Because to be honest, I really loved, especially for the past few series, I think this has been one of the Chris Chibnall's greatest strengths, actually, is when it comes to the historicals, they do historical episodes about people from history who, it's not like they're not famous, but they're not as famous as like ones that Doctor has done before, like Charles Dickens or Queen Victoria or Winston Churchill or something like that. You get historical, I suppose, lesser known historical people, such as Mary Shelley, Mary Seacole in series 13. Mary Shelley, of course, appeared in series 12. And then you add also in series 12 Nikola Tesla and Ada Lovelace, and I can't remember her exact name, but the woman who I think served as a spy for the British during World War II, who appeared in series 12 as well. And obviously, of course, Rosa Parks in series 11. I've just loved all those episodes a lot because they've made me, they've educated me to an extent. They've made me find out more about these people. And they're really, and a lot of like their stories as people, especially Rosa Parks, is so important for us to learn about. And I feel like, not to say that I didn't know anything about Rosa Parks beforehand, but I felt like I didn't know enough until I saw that episode, and then that really inspired me to then go and find out even more about her. And I really do feel like we should make more of an effort to, as a whole, to educate in schools and everything about lesser known historical figures. Like, still obviously talk about kings and queens and presidents and stuff like that, but also talk about others as well. But anyway, so yeah, so it could just be anyone, anything. I'm sorry that doesn't really give you a specific answer for your question, but that's the best I can do, I'm afraid. So sorry about that. But thank you to Jaybird and all of Who for your questions. So questions 6 to 8. Bloomindoc516 asks, what's your favourite Dalek model, and which Doctor Who villain do you like and least like, and what Doctor Who item is your most treasured possession? So, start off with, what's your favourite Dalek model? I think it would have to be probably the bronze Daleks, the ones that have appeared since the show came back in 2005. Since then, I really like them because I feel like they just represent like a really good modern interpretation of such a iconic and classic design for, well, anything really. And yeah, I just think it's a wonderful way of keeping faithful to the original Dalek designs, but also then tweaking it and adding something new and different and I won't say almost exciting, but you know what I mean. Something new anyway about the Daleks. So yeah, the bronze Daleks would have to be my favourite, but I do like Daleks as a whole. That I'll be honest. To answer your next question, the Daleks are my favourite monster. Sorry. I just think that they are, you know, it's Doctor Who would not have been such a massive success as it is without the Daleks, because obviously with the very first Dalek story, when that first broadcast in 1963, you know, Doctor Who was in a very different place to how it is now, where, you know, it'd only been running for about 4 episodes by that point, and it had, you know, it had done okay, like ratings wise, but the Daleks really made it the success that it was, because the show overnight got so many like so many more viewers and ratings and everything. And yeah, I just think they're an important part of the show's history and heritage ultimately, and they're also really ingrained into popular culture now. And yeah, I think the success of the Daleks has really helped the success of the show overall. As for which Doctor Who villain or monster that I least like, that's a tricky one again, I'm going to be honest. I think it wouldn't be definitely. I mean, I enjoy a lot of them. I think there is something interesting and intriguing about most monsters and villains from Doctor Who, but there are some there are some ones that are better than others. Like, obviously you've got like I said earlier, the usual suspects, the Daleks and the Cybermen, the Weeping Angels as well as another one, and the Sontarans and stuff like that, which are all really good and have pretty much almost always been really good. Sometimes, like, it depends on the story, but sometimes they're better than they are in other stories. But yeah, I'm not too sure actually about which Doctor Who villain I least like. I don't know. I'm sorry, I'm not too sure about that one. And what Doctor Who item is your most treasured possession? So I think, well, I've got obviously a massive Doctor Who collection of DVDs and figures and audios and everything. I'm trying to think of what would be my most treasured one. I think I'd have to say like the autographs that I've got, because I've got some autographs from some of the Doctors and Companions and people like that. I think especially probably my David Tennant one, which I actually got because my granddad wrote to David Tennant and then asked him for his autograph and everything, and then David Tennant sent back an autograph actually to me and everything, like properly signed and authentic and everything. So yeah, I think it would probably be them, and especially the David Tennant one. And then I've also got one from Russell T Davies, who of course is coming back to be the show's showrunner quite soon. And yeah, I'm just, with David Tennant being my favourite Doctor and Russell T Davies, I think probably would have to be my favourite Doctor Who writer, or definitely at least one of my favourites. And just, yeah, I just love his writing for Doctor Who, and just in general, really. I think Rusty Davies is such a great and really talented writer. So yeah, to have them to like sign autographs for me, which I now have in my collection, if in there, which I will like showcase at some point when I'm able to get around to it. Yeah, I think those two will probably be my most treasured possessions, but my autograph collection as a whole, I would say, is also very highly, yeah, treasured, because yeah, they're just so special, because it's something where you know, especially when they are actually signed to me, it feels just so special and so unique. And yeah, I think that would be my most treasured possession. Yeah. Question 9. Chrissy asks, what was the first piece of Doctor Who merchandise you got, or the one that got you collecting? So unfortunately, I'm not quite able to remember what the very first piece of Doctor Who merchandise I got, because my memory of when I was little is not that great, unfortunately. But I think that, I suppose it's kind of similar to your question. I suppose I could talk about it. Is the Five Doctors Special Edition DVD, the DVD release that they did in 1999, which was the special edition of that particular story, where they had brand new CGI and effects and stuff added to it, and deleted scenes I think they added to it as well. I think that would probably be like the closest thing to what you're asking, because or at least like the next best thing, as it were, because it was my first classic series DVD, as far as I can remember. And again, if I remember correctly, then it is the story that got me into watching the classic series as a whole. So it is definitely, you know, it definitely has always meant a lot and has been very special because to me because of that. So yeah, thank you both for your questions there. So question 10. If you could pick two Doctors to mix together to make one, who would they be, and what elements would you take from them? I'm hoping you don't mean literally. If you mean kind of when it comes to, I don't know, like personalities or characteristics or something like that, I suppose possibly having, I suppose when it comes to that, I'd mix like the Fourth Doctor, the First Doctor, and maybe the Seventh or Ninth Doctor. I'm sorry if that's not a very good answer to your question, but that's the best I can. That's the best answer I can think of. So yeah, sorry if that's not a great answer there. Anyway, so question 11. Dimension 5 Productions asks, what is your opinion on the Cartmel master plan? Would it have worked had season 27 gone on? And would you have preferred it to the Timeless Child arc? Right, so the Cartmel master plan, to those of you who don't know, was basically this idea that they had in the production team of Doctor Who had in the late 1980s. Specifically, the show's then script editor Andrew Cartmel, and yeah, I think it was mainly Andrew Cartmel, yeah, as well as a few writers that worked on the show during that time, such as Ben Aronovich and stuff like that. And the idea was basically to have the Doctor be revealed to be sort of like this founding father or founding member of Time Lord society called the Other, who and Time Lords, they didn't reproduce in the normal sexual way. They reproduced asexually through a process called looms, where sort of like reincarnation or regeneration, where a Time Lord would be loomed into being another Time Lord sort of thing. So, like I say, reincarnation sort of thing. And the idea was that the Other had been put through this loom somehow and had been reincarnated into the Doctor, and that was the whole idea they had set up, and they were going to gradually, I think, explore that more and more if the show hadn't have been cancelled in 1989. And you would have seen like the Seventh Doctor gradually finding out more, gradually remembering more, something like that about it. So my opinion on that is, well, I think I understand that obviously they created it with the intention of trying to add more mystery to the Doctor, and that I am completely on board with, because I think Andrew Cartmel has himself said that, like, by the time of the late 80s, it felt like we knew everything about the Doctor. It felt like we knew too much. So to add a bit of mystery back to the character was definitely a good idea, I think, and is something that I also really like the Timeless Child in some ways for adding more mystery back to the Doctor and their life, and their early life and sort of thing. Would it have worked? I mean, I don't know. I can't really say for definite, because it depends on how they would have taken it. I don't really think they would have probably have outright just explained it all, because then that would have destroyed the whole mystery of it in the first place. I think they probably would have just kept hinting or alluding to it every now and then that probably would have been it, I think. And would I have preferred it to the Timeless Child arc? Well, yes and no. I mean, I do like the idea, but then again, I also kind of like, in some ways anyway, the Timeless Child idea. Again, because it adds more mystery to the Doctor. But I do, because you see, again, I think both have pretty much the same problem as each other, in that they are both trying to make the Doctor sort of like this special chosen one kind of character, kind of person, when really, to me anyway, I think that the Doctor should just stay as the Doctor, just stay a friendly alien who goes travelling about in time and space in a Tardis, and just that be it, sort of thing. But I do understand why people would want there to be more mystery, and I do to an extent want more mystery. So I'm glad that the show has tried to do things like the Cartmel Master Plan, like the Timeless Child, to really bring that mystery back, because you had it with the first Doctor for a while, because when Doctor Who obviously first started, there was no indication that it wasn't like it was decided right from the get-go what the Doctor's origins would be. Like, we didn't know that the Doctor was a Time Lord from Gallifrey and stuff like that. We found that out like gradually over the years. I don't know if I would have preferred it, but it was definitely an interesting idea, and I kind of like how Chris Chibnall, I think, has probably borrowed some elements of it to an extent anyway, with the Timeless Child, and then with Tectia and the Doctor's mother, Doctor's adopted mother, I should say, as well. But yeah, I'm not too sure if I would have preferred it to the Timeless Child arc or not. I would have had to have seen how it all played out, but unfortunately we're not really able to say how that would have worked out, because obviously the show got cancelled before they were able to do more with it. And then question 12, who's your favourite master? So my favourite master would have to be the original TV incarnation anyway, Roger Delgado, because I just feel like he encapsulates the master as a whole just really well, and probably the best. He's probably just the best interpretation of the master, in my opinion anyway. Because I feel like yes, he's evil, but he's got a certain charm about him. Like he's a bit of a he's evil and he's sinister, but he's also a bit of a gentleman, and he's a bit, and you know, like I say, he's got a bit of a charm to him, and he's not unpleasant completely, as it were. He's very sort of sophisticated in that old-fashioned way, sort of thing, and he's also, as much as he does fight against the Doctor a lot, he's also, I think there's a genuine mutual respect and admiration between him and Jon Pertwee's Doctor, because I feel like each of them really does, like, you can tell, like, the two of them used to be the best of friends, and I feel like that is really important when trying to establish a great Doctor Master pair or rapport or whatever. So the fact that Jon Pertwee and Roger Delgado were able to just do that and do it so brilliantly and so well, and I think that, you know, not to say that like others haven't like done a great job at it since then. Like you've had with the 12th Doctor and Missy, that was a really good pairing, and you could tell again that they used to be best friends and everything. And then with the 13th Doctor and Sacha de Harwen's Master, you could tell to some extent that they used to be best friends, but but to a much lesser extent, I suppose. But it's still like I really do like Sacha de Harwen's Master, don't get me wrong, and I really love his relationship and rapport with the 13th Doctor. But yeah, I just feel like it with Jon Pertwee's Doctor and Roger Delgado's Master, they are definitely at least equals, and it's just that something happened where one went one way and the other went the other way. So yeah, I think that Roger Delgado is just like, he's not completely bad. I think he does at the end of like Toe of the Autons, for instance, like actually reluctantly work with the Doctor, mainly just to save his own skin, yes, but he still works with the Doctor. Like I don't think he necessarily hates the Doctor, which some masters would go on to actually genuinely hate the Doctor and what the Doctor stands for and everything. The Master doesn't completely hate the Doctor, no. The Roger Delgado's Master, anyway, doesn't completely hate Jon Pertwee's Doctor, no. So yeah, that is why he is my favourite, because it's just so interesting, and I feel like the way they explored that was just really good. And it's just such a shame that we didn't get more of Roger Delgado, because obviously, tragically, he died in a car accident before they could properly give his master a proper send-off, which is a real tragic shame. But yeah, thank you all for all your questions yet again. So Brandon Dringenberg asks, what is your favourite coffee bean? Well, to tell you the truth, I'm not a massive coffee drinker. I prefer tea, personally, because I'm British, obviously. But, you know, I don't mind coffee, but I'm not too sure what my favourite coffee bean would have to be, really. I'm sorry, that's not a proper answer to your question, but I've got no idea, basically, because I just, like I say, I just don't drink coffee that much. I like coffee cake, but I don't actually drink coffee that much at all. Question 14. Hoovian 45678W910111213 asks, do you think Doctor Who should have an episode set around a zoo or wildlife park? Yeah, I think that would be interesting. Could definitely be something like new for the show, I think. I don't believe, anyway, Doctor has really done that. Not in a TV show, anyway. I mean, with the spin-off media, like the comics and books and audios, I mean, who knows? It probably has happened once or twice in them, but not in the TV shows, as far as I'm aware, anyway. So yeah, I think that would be really interesting and different, like, thing for Doctor Who to do, but I'd be really interested to see what Doctor Who would do with that, yeah. Questions 15 to 17. Mistress of Evil asks, what is your favourite outfits the Doctor has worn? Can be just a one-time thing, not necessarily their main one. And what character traits do you like to see for the Doctor or their companion? Do you like them to be particularly manipulative, curious, in or out of control of the situation, etc.? And which companion had the best exit? So, starting off with, what is your favourite outfit the Doctor has worn? Well, I think, let me see about, I'll have a think now about, like, the main outfits that they've worn, their main costumes and what have you. I think my favourite would have to be, I think it would be the Fourth Doctor's outfit from, I believe it's season 13 till season 14, I believe it is. So I think it's from Pyramids of Mars till the to the Robots of Death. Yeah, that's it. The Robots of Death. The maroon jacket, the dark maroon jacket, long coat, sorry, that he wears, with obviously his trademark multicolored scarf, and then the patterned waistcoat and the red cravat or necktie or whatever. I just think that is quintessentially just Doctor Who. That is just so that it just looks so Doctorish, really, and I think it's just a really good costume for his Doctor and for just the Doctor overall. As for, like, a one-time thing, I don't know. I mean, well, or at least kind of one that they don't wear as often. It's not like their main costume that they wear. I liked a lot of, like, the 12th Doctor's one-off or occasional outfits, like his smart one in Mummy on the Orient Express. I really likes that. He really looked just great in that, I think. I also really liked his outfit in Thin Ice, because again that just really suited Peter Capaldi, especially. It just really suited him really well, and just really looked good. And I also especially, and I think this is just one of my favourite pieces of clothing that any of the Doctors have ever worn, would have to be his red velvet jacket. I think that is just so. I just love the way it looks. I love the way, I love when he wore it and everything, because it just completely suits his Doctor, and it completely suits, again, the Doctor as a whole, because again it's harking back to, like, the John Pertwee kind of stuff with the capes and everything that the Third Doctor used to wear. And yeah, I think that's just it just looks brilliant. Yeah. And then, what character traits do you like to see for the Doctor or their companion? So I like the Doctor to be definitely quite grumpy to an extent, yes. So like the first Doctor or the third Doctor or 6 or 9, 12, however many grumpy Doctors there've been. I do like the Doctor to be a bit grumpy, a bit grouchy, a bit irritable. But I also still like the Doctor to, like, I especially love the first Doctor, like when it comes to his personality, because, you know, even though people think of him as just a grumpy old man, he is far more than just that as a Doctor. He is, you know, he's got like a little twinkle in his eye. He's got a soft spot, sort of thing, and I like that. And I like that in a Doctor in general, because I feel like that's a good balance, and I feel like that's kind of why I like David Tennant's Doctor again. Is he also had, you know, the soft side and then the harder, more serious side. So I like a good balance between them two, especially, yeah. But yeah, I also do like, I know you say in your question, you mentioned about, do you like them to be particularly manipulative? Well, I do like the Seventh Doctor's manipulative nature, although that's probably not something that I would like every Doctor to have, because I feel like that probably works best with the Seventh Doctor, and I don't really think that that should be used by too many Doctors, because then it kind of ruins the whole, like, what makes it interesting. Basically, it ruins that, I think, or it would ruin that, in my opinion. And then, which companion had the best exit? Ooh, that is, again, I'm getting really some really tricky questions in this Q&A, aren't I? I mean, I think there were a lot of really good, solid companion exits overall. There are some that are definitely better than others. Like, there's some that literally the companion just, and I don't really like this as a companion exit, when the companion, especially a female companion, like meets a random bloke or person or whatever, and then they just eventually get together with them and wander off and leave the Doctor and everything. I just feel like that's just not very, like, that. The classic series especially did a lot of that. I understand why, because, you know, it's when, like, the actresses or whatever, or actors, announced that they were leaving to the production team, then the production team has got to think, right, well, how are we going to get this companion to leave? And they just have the whole, oh well, you know, they met this person and they wanted to go off with them and stuff. And I just feel like it's a bit, especially when it comes to, like, Leela's exit, for instance, and Vicky's exit as well. Those two especially just really encapsulate just how I don't really think that works particularly well anyway. But obviously, like, the way that these things are handled nowadays is way different to how they were handled back in the 60s and 70s, when those two especially left the show. As for which companion had the best exit, I'm not too sure. I mean, I don't want to sound like really morbid and everything and dark, but I do think there is something, like, definitely, like, there's a massive wow factor when a companion is killed off, for instance. It's not happened, well, it has happened quite a bit, but not, like, loads and loads. It's not happened all the time, certainly not. And yeah, I think it's just, like I say, it's giving the show a bit of an edge when sometimes, you know, despite how much the Doctor tries to save their companion just ends up dying for whatever reason. And yeah, I think that's just really, really powerful. Yeah. I'm not too sure which which specific companion I'd have to say had the best one. But yeah, I do like the more dramatic exits overall. So yeah, I'm sorry. Again, I'm not being very good with some of these answers to some of these questions, am I? So I'm really sorry for not being more specific than just naming one particular exit. But yeah, it's just really hard for me to choose, to be honest with you. So yeah, thank you again to those people. So Brandon Dringenberg, Hoovian 45678W9101111213, and Mistress of Evil for all your questions there. Okay, so question 18, and I think we're nearly at the end now. What are your favourite and least favourite TARDIS interiors and exteriors? So I really like when it comes to interiors, I really like the original TARDIS interior. I think that obviously, with it being the original, it set the template for then every single design that's come since, and I think it did a really good job of that. Like, it looks really good, especially considering that it was made on such a cheap budget as it was back in 1963. I think they really did a really good job of designing that and making it and everything. But I also really like the 9th and 10th Doctor's TARDIS interior, the coral room, as it were. Again, it comes back to childhood nostalgia, but I just like it when like, I like the classic series interiors, don't get me wrong, but I like when it feels like the TARDIS is, like, I like the fact that the TARDIS, it feels more alive when there's more stuff going on, as it were. And I also like the fact how some controls are just bits and bobs that the Doctor has, like, found along their adventures and everything, and the travels. I just really like that. I think that's really interesting and unique thing for that console room. Although I know obviously it was then carried on into Matt Smith's first TARDIS interior, and again I liked that one, not as much, but still, like, I liked it for that again as well. And I just overall really like it when a TARDIS interior has got a lot, like, there's an awful lot of stuff going on in it. Like, there is, like, another good example, another one of my favourites, again I'm giving loads of favourites here, I'm really sorry, would have to be a TV movie TARDIS, because, there's different sections to it, and I really love that. Part of it is the main console itself, with the structures and everything all going down at the sides of it, and then you've also got a bit of a library, I think it was, a bit of a like little study or reading like section for the Doctor to sit down and read a book in, or have a cup of tea. And then I think you've got like a bit of a garden towards the back, or something anyway, something like that, and you've got a bit with all the clocks and stuff like that. I just love something like that, because it's just so, like, you can tell that the TARDIS, because the TARDIS is essentially meant to be the Doctor's, like, not just the Doctor's machine, but also their home. That TV movie TARDIS especially really does feel like the Doctor's home, and I love it so much for that. And I just love it when you have a TARDIS interior that feels like it's been lived in, and feels like there's so much going off, like there's different sections to it. It's not just a console room. As for least favourite, I've got to say I am not a fan of the current Jodie Whittaker TARDIS interior. For me, I just feel like it's, I don't know, it doesn't really, like, the whole fact that there's all this stuff to do with crystals and everything, that's like a fine concept, good enough idea. The way it's executed, I just feel a bit disappointed with, because it just doesn't I feel like there could have been a better way of doing that, personally. And I don't like especially the console itself. I just do not like that at all. Like the central column or time rotor or whatever you want to call it, being the strange looking massive crystal that it is. I just don't really like that. It just, I don't know. I know obviously like I've said earlier about how I like the classic interiors, and I know obviously a lot of them were because of budget reasons. Were very small or looked, or well, they were small, and some of them, some looked small anyway. Some I think really tried to take advantage of as much space as possible anyway. But I feel like the 13th Doctor's especially just really is small, and it's such a massive departure from the past few TARDIS interiors that we've had, especially the 11th Doctor's second one, and which will go on, of course, to also be used by the 12th Doctor, because again, that felt like, like something that the Doctor would actually live in. It had stuff going on. It had the books in from 12th Doctor's time onwards. It had, all the roundels or stuff like that. It felt livable. It felt like not just like a spaceship or a machine. It felt like a home. The 13th Doctor's doesn't feel like a home. It barely even feels like a spaceship in many ways. It just, I don't know, just for me, I just do not like the aesthetic of it at all. As for TARDIS exteriors, well, actually, to be honest, I do like the 13th Doctor's TARDIS exterior. I think that the police box prop that they use for the 13th Doctor's era at the minute, that looks really nice. I really, really love that, because of the way it harkens back to some of the classic exteriors or police boxes, whilst also still, again, it's like that whole thing of it's keeping faithful whilst also at the same time doing something new, or at least a bit different anyway, and I love it for that, and I just think it just looks wonderful. Just the wood texturing and the police box sign on it. I just love it. I just love all the texturing on it. As for least favourite one, let me think here. I'm not too sure, because having just thought about it all now, I can't, at the minute anyway, off the top of my head, think of one that I really don't like, because I like all of them pretty much, or at least to varying extents. Some I do think look better than others, certainly, but yeah, I think so. For my we'll say for my favourite TARDIS interior, it would have to be the original. For my least favourite interior, it would have to be Jodie Whittaker's console room, and then for favourite exterior, it would have to be, I'd say Jodie Whittaker's exterior, but I'm not too sure about least favourite. So again, I've not properly answered the question. What a surprise. No, but sorry that I couldn't quite properly answer your question, sorry. So then we come to questions 19 to 21. Sarah Who asks, what missing story would you most want to be recovered and why? And what is your favourite pure historical story? And which companion do you feel is the most underappreciated? So, what missing story would I most want to be recovered and why? I think I would probably want, I preferably I'd like all of them to come back really and be recovered, but obviously that's probably never really going to happen. Although I would, like I say, I would really I really hope that maybe, we'd get close to that at least one day. I think the one that I'm going to go for if I most want to be recovered would probably be the Dalek's master plan, because I think that is not impossible to animate, but I think that is, if it's not going to be the very last, then it will definitely be one of the last to be animated. And just because of how many episodes of it are missing, because it's a 12-parter and 9 out of those 12 are currently missing. So that is a lot of, and you've also got a lot of, characters in it. You've got a lot of backgrounds and locations in it. It's going to be a nightmare for the animators to animate, really. So I would love to see that be recovered. I know episode 7, like the Feast of Stephen, which I'm going to be doing a review later on in this special, is especially not very likely to ever be recovered, because I think there was only one copy of that ever made, and that was kept just over here at the in the UK by the BBC, and was never even put up for international distribution, because it was a Christmas special and you could only air it on Christmas Day, and obviously a lot of foreign broadcasters would be broadcasting the overall story at whatever time of year, just throughout the year. And the Feast of Stephen itself doesn't really, it's not like a massive part of that story anyway, because you could easily take it out of that story and it wouldn't make much difference, because it was meant to be just a straightforward Christmas special, just a throwaway episode. Well, I wouldn't say throwaway, but a bit of fun anyway, just a bit of fun on Christmas Day. But yeah, I would say Dalek's Master Plan purely because I think that is something that I certainly, and I think a lot of fans in general, would really love to see, to be able to see that story again, how it originally looked and everything. I mean, obviously it will, hopefully anyway, be eventually animated, but yeah, it'd be lovely to have that back. What is your favourite pure historical story? So my favourite pure historical story would have to be... So let me just run down the pure historical. So you've got Marco Polo, then you've got the Reign of Terror, the Crusade, I suppose you could count the Romans and then the Crusade, and then I suppose you could also count the Myth Makers to an extent as well, and the Massacre of St. Bartholomew's Eve. And then, what else have you got then? You've got, I suppose, the Gunfighters and the Smugglers, and then the Highlanders, and I suppose technically Black Orchid as well. What is my favourite out of them? Well, having thought about it just now, having mentioned it, and I think it would have to be the Massacre of St. Bartholomew's Eve, because, well, it is a really dark and depressing story. So it is unfortunately all missing. I do hope that one day it will be animated. I'm sure it will. It is 4 episodes, although again it's got a lot of locations and characters. So I think that again might be one that if they are going to animate, which I think they probably will, at least wait a few years to animate that when they've got a bit more funding or something for it. But I really love it because, and it's probably my favourite because I just feel like, at least it's my favourite right now, because obviously my opinion might change after having done this and everything. But I think the Massacre would probably be my favourite just because, well, like I've already said, I know I keep repeating myself, so sorry about that, but it is a very dark and depressing story. But I really like how there's a massive conflict between the First Doctor and Stephen. And that is something that you very rarely get at all in a classic series. You very rarely get any sense of actual conflict or drama, as it were, between the Doctor and their companion. So to have the massacre be a rare example of that is really interesting and intriguing, and I think it works so well in that story. So yeah, I would say the massacre, yeah, because and it's also it's based on a bit of history which again I didn't know much about. Actually, like I think they call it the French. It's part of the French Wars of Religion or something. And yeah, I really find that interesting. And yeah, it was and like I said earlier with Doctor Who historicals and everything, it's just a good way to, for me anyway, to introduce me to a period of history that I may not know that much about, but then I can do, after having watched that story or episode or whatever, I can then do some further research and read into the actual true historical events that episode or story is based off of. So yeah, I think it would have to be the Massacre of St. Bartholomew's Eve, or the Massacre for short. And which companion do you feel is the most underappreciated? So I'm looking at my little poster here. I'll try and do some B-roll footage of it, just showing you all it if you don't already know what I'm on about. It is a poster I got of the Doctor, and it says it's a quasi-comprehensive guide to companions, and it's done by Reg Scarlack, and I got it off Redbubble. So I'm having a look at it anyway, and yeah, I feel like, well, I don't know, there's an awful lot of underappreciated or underrated companions, especially some of the earlier ones. I feel like Vicky, for instance, I mentioned her and her exit earlier. I feel like Vicky is a very underrated companion. I really love her dynamics with and interactions with not just the First Doctor, but also fellow companions. I know she starts off with Ian and Barbara, and then once they leave, she then travels with the First Doctor and Stephen for a bit. I think Sarah Kingdom is another really underrated companion. I know obviously she only really is a companion throughout episodes 5 to 12 of the Dalek's Master Plan. So most of the Dalek's Master Plan. Yeah, I just feel like, I'm sorry if the lighting keeps changing every time I'm looking up. It probably is, so sorry about that. It's starting to get very dark outside now, so yeah, sorry about that. But yeah, I just feel like a lot of early 60s companions especially, very underrated. But if I had to choose one, at this moment in time, I would say it would have to be Vicky, because I feel like she is so overlooked really when it comes to companions. But also a more recent example could be Martha to an extent as well, because Martha is given such a bad deal by the 10th Doctor, because, you know, like I was saying earlier about the 10th Doctor, you know, being, you know, quite nasty on some occasions. The 10th Doctor was definitely very nasty towards Martha, and I really don't understand like why he was like that towards her. I just feel like there was just no need for his type of behaviour really, and especially when it's, you know, it turns out that she's got unrequited love or feelings for him. Yeah, I think that was really just not called for, on the 10th Doctor's part, and I feel like and I think it's credit to her for actually standing up for herself, at the end of Series 3 to the 10th Doctor in some ways, and, you know, saying, here is me getting out, and sort of, and talking about, like, one of her friends, I think it is, or something, and and stuff like that, and then her then being treated more fairly by the writers to an extent, I suppose, by then going off to work for UNIT and then appearing in Torchwood and stuff like that. And yeah, I think Martha was given a pretty raw deal, or rough deal through Series 3 by the 10th Doctor and the writers to an extent as well, but especially by the Doctor, just because she wasn't Rose, basically, which, yeah, I just do not like that at all. And the final question 22, the Corsair asks, what is your unpopular opinion about Doctor Who? Right, well, there's many unpopular opinions I could give about Doctor Who, such as my less than, I wouldn't say hatred, but my less than appreciation, if that makes any sense, which it probably doesn't. But yeah, my disliking, that's it, for Twice Upon a Time. But that's mainly because of the way it handled the first Doctor. And I think that is something that most fans tend to agree with, so I suppose it's not that unpopular. But I think my most unpopular one is probably the fact that I actually like the Space Pirates. I actually really like the Space Pirates. I'm sorry if there's any flashing lights. No, sorry, it's getting sidetracked. But yeah, I really do like the Space Pirates. And yeah, the reason why I like the Space Pirates is because, well, the way I've mainly experienced that story is through the audio CD that they released as part of the BBC radio collection in the early 2000s and everything, when, they used to release soundtracks for lost episodes or missing episodes back then. That was my main way of experiencing that story, and I just used to really love listening to that. And I've actually got very fond nostalgic memories of listening to that. Yeah, I understand that people don't like it. I understand that people find it really boring and really dull, and I completely get what they're saying. But to me, based purely on the audio CD, if nothing else, which I know is probably a bit of cheating, I suppose, on my part, but it's still the same story. Yeah, I just feel like based on that audio CD, I just really enjoy it for the most part, and I genuinely would rank it quite, not really highly among Patrick Troughton's stories, certainly, and definitely not very highly on my overall ranking of all the Doctor Who stories, which I'm sure we'll get back, which obviously I'll be doing later on in this Christmas special. But yeah, it's something which I do honestly like. Yeah, I mean, yes, the one surviving episode of it, episode 2, not that much really happens apart from a load of talking, load of exposition and everything, but it's fine. And to be honest, the model work in it is, throughout the whole story, or what little there is of it that survives, I really love that. I think that is a classic example of some really brilliant and really talented Doctor Who model work. And yeah, I do sometimes, as much as CGI can be good, I do sometimes think there's something even better about using miniatures or model work and everything for Doctor Who. So yeah, there is my most unpopular probably opinion about Doctor Who, that I actually like the Space Pirates. Yeah, and I'm not mad, I promise. So there we have it. There is my Q&A video finally done at long last. So I hope you all enjoyed that. I'm very sorry for the amount of waffling on I probably did in a lot of those answers, and for maybe not giving proper answers to some questions. Apologies about that, and apologies for getting maybe a bit sidetracked. Like I said earlier, it is starting to get very dark now. So yeah, I hope you all enjoyed this Q&A, and I hope you all continue to enjoy the rest of this Christmas special.